On. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 17th Annual Legislative Forum. I'm Karen Moe, and I'm current chair of Progressive Cheverly. And we have not been as active the last couple of years, but one thing that we have maintained is this forum where we get to talk to the legislative delegates and our senator for District 47. So I would like to turn it over to our moderator and we can begin. Thanks so much.
Hi, thanks, Karen. I'm happy to see everyone here, though it's virtually. Here's to hoping that we'll be together in person for next year's forum. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Brianna January. I am a Baltimore lifelong native, but I have lived in Cheverly now for a few years, and I'm very familiar with Annapolis. I've served as a staffer for Delegate Carol Resnick of Montgomery County for several years. And then after a quick stint in Washington, D.C., working on disinformation and extremism, I'm back in Annapolis representing county interest with the Maryland Association of Counties, also known as MACO. And so I'm very pleased to be here with you all today. Just a little bit of background on how we will operate tonight's forum. After I introduce our elected officials, each of them will have 3 minutes for an opening statement, focusing on some of their priorities for the current legislative session that, for those that don't know, began January 12th and will adjourn on April 11th. By my count, which I am keeping count of daily, I think we're at 74 days until sine die. Not quite close enough for me yet, but he was counting, yeah. At that point, after introductions are made, the floor will be open for questions or comments from the audience. Please follow these guidelines, which I will also share in the chat when I'm done. Please stay muted except for when you are called upon to speak. Please raise your hand by using the raise hand function in Zoom. And to find that, if you just click down at the bottom of your Zoom chat where it says reactions, you click on that, and then there's a little raise hand button that will alert us that you have a question. If need be, you can also physically raise your hand if you can't. Sometimes, technology, buttons don't work. That's perfectly fine. We'll find you on screen and we'll get to you that way. Also, feel free to just submit questions directly in the chat feature, and we'll be monitoring that. Please do limit your questions or comments to 1 minute or so that way we can have the maximum amount of people participate. And if the time remains, after all of your questions have been asked and answered, you can raise your hand and ask a second round if you'd like. Our legislators will each have 1 minute to respond to the questions asked, and we will have a timer to alert people if they're exceeding their time. It'll be a familiar sound. It'll be like a little ding, just so that way folks know we can kind of stick on time. The forum will last for a total of around 90 minutes, and our representatives will each have 1 minute at the end for closing marks. And so since we have that all good and done with, I'd like to start with Senator Malcolm Augustine. Senator Augustine is wrapping up his first term as senator. He sits on the Senate Finance Committee, a very important body that I'm sure you can guess handles all matters of finance. Notably, he serves as chair of the Joint Committee on the Management of Public Funds. Senator, we're so pleased to have you with us. Thank you, and we welcome your comments now.
Thank you, Brianna, and thank you all. I'm very pleased to be here with you tonight, even if it is virtually. As she said, I'm Senator Malcolm Augustine, proudly representing you, District 47, and I have and will continue to concentrate a lot of my efforts legislatively, at least in the space of behavioral health. And I have a series of bills that I have already introduced and have been working on that are in that area. That includes the modernization of emergency petitions, a bill to that is associated with behavioral health crises, a couple bills for that. One which basically works to de-emphasize the utilization of law enforcement and grants to support mobile crisis units. and a variety of others. I'm also a lead sponsor on a piece of legislation to bring dental coverage to adult Medicaid patients of Maryland, of which there are around 800,000 in our state who do not have mandated dental coverage, a pretty significant bill that I'm working on. And I am also working on a bill that deals with extending producer responsibility, which in essence is an environmental bill that looks at packaging products and moving the cost associated with recycling those products into the place where it belongs, which is on those people who have made the products in the first place, and moving the costs associated with that to them so that we can have a more robust recycling process and can encourage less packaging materials along the way. So those are things that I'm working on that I'm excited about, just a few. We're also out there protecting significant investments in our community that were part of the capital budget, 1.6 million of a variety of projects around the towns and those things. And then also some things associated with our sewers. And that's about $23 million too that we need to protect and we'll keep working on. And I'm really pleased to be here with you all tonight.
So thank you so much, Senator. I just happened to read that recycling bill the other day, cross-filed with comptroller candidate Brooke Learman. Really interesting bill, yeah. Next, we have the esteemed Delegate Diana Fennell. Delegate Fennell was first elected to the Maryland House of Delegates in 2014. She currently sits on the Economic Matters Committee and importantly serves as the Assistant Speaker Pro Tem. Formerly, she served as Deputy Majority Whip. Delegate, we are very pleased to have you with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm very honored that I was also chosen again to be the Assistant Speaker Pro Tem. It's an absolute pleasure. We're going to continue to focus on and dealing with redistricting. We was able to pass the congressional map yesterday, the SJ2. On the House side with Delegate Ivy and myself and the other delegates. We're going to continue to focus on housing to making sure that we look to expand projects to make sure that we deal with our vulnerable renters and homeowners. As stated before, I'm on ECM. We're going to go back and we're going to try again with the Family Medical Leave Act. This is a established insurance program for all Marylanders to provide benefits for when the families are out. Also, as you know, we was not able to pass the climate change 2021 out of the Senate. We couldn't get it out of the Senate last year. So we are working on that again to make sure that we have grow green jobs. So we are focusing on that in reference to coming up session. Also, as I just stated, I dropped a couple bills in the hopper 2 days ago in reference to Tuskegee Commemorative Day. So I'm working on that. And then also making sure that I do another bill to deal with food services and facility beverages option. And that means to have unsweetened, water and making sure that we have 1 or 2% milk, So those are some of the things that I'm working on, and also looking forward to continue to work in the communities as Senator Augustine, Julian, and myself was able to make sure that Cheverly area was able to do a coat drive. So we did that. We continue to do food drives within the 47th district to make sure that we feed the vulnerable in reference to making sure that we're still providing as we're still in Annapolis. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that. Still providing, even though you're still in Annapolis. That's just incredible. Thank you. We'll now move to Delegate Julian Ivey. Delegate Ivey is in his first term in Annapolis. Prior, you'll remember him from his time on the Cheverly Town Council. Delegate Ivey is Prince George's County's delegation first chair and currently serves on the Ways and Means Committee, which I often will appear before, so I will be on my best behavior tonight. Thank you very much, Delegate Ivy, for being with us.
Thanks so much, Brianna. Nice to see you in this capacity. Welcome to Cheverly, by the way. Lived here for 26 years now of my life. For those of you all who don't know, that is my entire life. And before we go any further, I just want to mention to everyone that if you're going through anything, you can always reach out to me. You can talk to me, and I'm sure that there are others that you can also reach out to. So moving forward, last year we had so many successes. Of course, we passed sweeping policing reform legislation, and I'm really proud of that. Many of you have watched me grow up, and you know that it was a big issue. For me, it got me to get into public office. It still is a big issue to this day. There's some really significant bills that are still being proposed this year by Senator Carter, Senator Smith, Delegate Wilkins, and Delegate Asfero. They're all working on very important legislation, whether we're talking about ending qualified immunity, which is a piece of legislation that I've proposed in the past, that now the chair of JPR in the Senate is now proposing. So it's a really big deal for the policy moving forward. And so I just wanted to quickly address some of the policing issues, because I know that it's near and dear to many individuals' hearts as well. Last year, biggest success for me was just working with Senator Peters, Senator Augustine, members of the House Appropriations Committee to bring nearly $3 million back to really the community right outside of Cheverly, right by the Cheverly station, to work on the Beaver Creek that needed to be restored so that it would stop overflowing. And the issue that actually caused the severe flooding on Route 50 is what this project will alleviate. So I'm really proud of that. And, when I got my feet wet with water issues, it made me think, are there other things that we could be doing as a legislature to help individuals who have flooding issues going on in their homes specifically, not a Route 50 issue, not flooding on 202, but in your basement, like we've had in my house. And, I know so many other individuals in Cheverly and in the Port Town specifically have suffered with for years. One thing we were able to do was put a barrier in our backyard. It looks all right, it gets the job done, and that's the important part. It keeps water out of our basement, but it did cost several $1,000s to do. They were privileged enough to be able to just do that, but so many individuals don't have several $1,000s just sitting waiting to be used for something like a flood mitigation project. So I'm putting forward legislation that technically would not kick in until 2024, because we don't yet have the budgetary authority required. Creating a $5 million grant through the Housing and Community Development to allow for a $5,000 grant to be available to individuals and families who make below a certain threshold. So it's still not enough to fix your home if it's just corroding away completely due to water issues, but it's something. And I think that's what people are looking for. I've also got another piece of legislation because I'm grateful to serve on Ways and Means. It deals with property tax credits, just making it more easily accessible. It's sending it out to individuals who haven't filed an income tax return in the last 3 years. So hard at work on my committee, Ways and Means. Grateful to be there. Always a privilege to serve in the House of Delegates. And specifically with these two individuals, I think we've made a great team for the 47th district.
Well, thank you so much. Well, we'd love to open up to any questions from the audience. Again, you can raise your hand on the feature, you can raise your hand on the screen, you can post it directly in the chat. In the meantime, to get us started while folks start to think about the type of comments that they'd like to hear from our elected officials. Again, this is a very unique opportunity that we have them right in front of us during legislative session when they're making such a big impact in analysis in Annapolis, not analysis, in Annapolis. So be sure to take advantage of that. But I have something I'd like to talk about to get us started. In case folks aren't aware, and Delegate Ivey kind of started to lean into this a little bit, but the governor in Maryland has a rather extreme authority over the budget setting for the state. It's actually the most extreme in the country. By law, the governor is allowed to solely propose a budget, and the legislature can either vote it up or down. They cannot edit items in the budget. They cannot just add to it as they please. There are a couple of wonky policy things that can be done in budget language and things like that to get some more priorities in there. But essentially, the governor proposes the budget and the legislature okays it. Puts up some fights, but we have to have a budget, a balanced budget at the end of the day. As Delegate Ivey started to kind of get into, this is set to change next year because of a referendum that was a constitutional referendum that was passed last November that gives the legislature larger authority over the budget. So that'll be great for the people of Maryland for sure. Our elected officials will be the ones making the decisions on how we spend our money, which is, as everyone knows, how you spend your money is a showcase of your values. That said, the governor did introduce his last large authoritative bill just last week, and there are some interesting things in it, to say the least. So I was wondering if anyone has any sort of insight on that budget that was just released last week that they might want to share quickly. I will note that there was a notable amount of blueprint funding. So that's public education dollars of the major reform package that passed a couple of years ago to completely change our public education system in the state. There was an allotment of about $125 million that was supposed to go towards concentration of poverty grants, mostly aimed at Baltimore City and Prince George's County. And that $125 million was not funded in the governor's budget last week. Apparently there is a legal opinion being sought to see whether or not the Attorney General thinks that the governor is actually mandated to fill that for this year. So TBD on that, but it was kind of a political signaling that, you know, two large areas with a large chunk of public funding was not funded. If anyone has any comments on the budget that y'all want to get started for us, specifically how that relates to our county and our district, I'd love to hear it.
Well, one of the things, Senator, if you don't mind if I jumped in, one of the things that, you know, you talked about in reference to the blueprint, but he also didn't fund $15 million of the other current programs. So this budget is actually, the proposed budget that the governor proposed is actually, it's a short budget. It's actually about 5.5% less than the budget that was proposed in 2022. So, and I don't know why, because we have monies that was trickled down from the federal government that we could be able to spend. So I don't know why he proposed this shortfall. He didn't fund monies for the infrastructure, for the Jobs Act. So those things that we can go on that we're trying to figure out, why didn't he when we have the money to do so?
I think that that's a great point. We're at a surplus, and the administration and a lot of other folks have really touted that. Delegate Ivey, it looked like you were going to chime in.
Yeah, he just doesn't look very moderate to me, you know, with this budget that he proposed. And, you know, I know that he's got a great PR team. They've done a wonderful job through these past 2 terms for him. I'm sure that they will all find wonderful employment after he leaves office. But it's clear where his priorities lie, and that's in rhetoric. And it's pretty dangerous when it's coming from a governor with the authority that he does have. Brianna, you really pointed out that prior to this constitutional amendment, which was voted on by the people of Maryland, you know, this governor had the most authority out of any governor in the country over our budget. And so this isn't the first time he's done something like this, but to be so blatant and to reduce $125 million worth coming from our public schools when we have a nearly $6 billion structural surplus, That means this is something that's already built in, and next year we're going to have a similar issue, if you think about it that way. It just shows where his priorities lie. So
I agree with all that has been said. What I will share with you, though, is that it is a bargaining position by the governor. And that's what this is about. There will be multiple supplemental budgets that are going to come down the line. And the governor is just strictly trying to extract policy priorities with the power that he has of the purse. And that's really what it comes down to. Governor has policy initiatives that the legislature does not have much of an interest in. And he's trying to use the leverage that he has with the budget in order to do that. I think that there will be certain amounts of it that will be in some of these supplemental budgets, but he's going to use that leverage as best he can in order to extract some other things out of the process. And that's what's going on.
Thank you all for that. I see that we have a couple of questions. Karen, I saw your hand first, if you want to go.
Yes, thank you. My question is about environmental justice zones and the possibility with the passage of federal laws to deal with infrastructure. My understanding of environmental justice zones is that funds would be going to areas that have been underserved. And I'm curious, I would wonder if we have such zones in District 47, being an inner beltway area. I would think that it might be. And as you may know, there's some air quality issues in the Cheverly area, and a lot of truck traffic and the like. And so I'm wondering about the potential of some of those funds coming to our district due to environmental justice zones and the need to serve the underserved communities.
I don't have a good answer for that,
Go
Karen.
ahead, Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't have a good answer. I would have to consult with the folks who are on the committee of jurisdiction to see if they had put in any legislation, and in the Senate that's led by Senator Paul Pinsky, to see if they have put forth policies that are that would help to direct that activity. I don't know though. I don't know the answer.
Let me jump in. I saw that Denise, I think it's Denise Hamlet, had a question in reference to climate control. We'll go back into the environmental and infrastructure. But let me just jump in about the climate change for 2021. I stated earlier, Denise, that we was able to get it at the House. We wasn't able to get it out the Senate. We're going to push hard for it to come out the Senate, and I'll let the Senator address that. But in reference to what we talked about in reference to the environmental and what Senator Augustine stated in reference to checking to see, if we're going to make sure that we get monies. But as you can see, as we talked about, yet again, the governor did not put any money for infrastructure in the bill. I think was it today? Did it happen today that the bridge collapsed? Was it Pennsylvania?
Yes, that was just today.
Right, it was in Pennsylvania. I mean, those are type of stuff that we need to make sure that we address and making sure that we have the monies that's in there to be able to fund our infrastructures. And for the environmental, we're going to push as hard as we can to make sure that we get monies to be able to address issues that is in the 47 for environmental. But as a senator stated, we're going to make sure that we check and make sure that we do have a certain amount of earmark, if not try to earmark monies for the area. Thank you. Senator, anything else you want to add?
Well, I would say that Senator Pinsky might beg to differ with you with as far
I know.
as
I know.
Climate Solutions Now Act. The Senate did pass that, sent it over to the House. The House chose to, not take action on that bill. Good news is, of course, it was used another vehicle to actually pass legislation for the state of Maryland to commit to planting of 5 million trees. Still were able to get that done last year. And there's been a commitment from Chair Barvey and Chair Pinsky to get significant legislation that deals with climate done in this legislative session. They have had that commitment. They've been working on that throughout, since the end of last session, and they're continuing to work through that right now.
Ms. Mo, I'll look into the environmental justice zones piece. I'd be surprised if we don't classify as such, but hopefully we don't, quite frankly. That was all I wanted to say on that.
Okay, I think Norm, you had your hand raised next.
Yes, I wanted to ask, given the continuing inability to pass critical legislation in Washington, specifically the Build Back Better Act and the voting rights bills, does that change anything in terms of the focal points within the Maryland legislature this session, in terms of any of the bills that are being worked on where you might prefer to be getting the direction from the federal level, but if you're not, how does that affect the things that are being worked on?
If it can't get done in DC, can we do it in Maryland?
It's interesting that you say that. I appreciate that question, Norm. What I can share with you is that at least in the Senate, the first priority, which we now have done, was to get the redistricting done. And that now has been completed. It was completed. The House passed the legislation this week. We actually still have, and you all will receive this soon, we have the school board maps still to get completed. So we're still getting that squared away, but the understanding is that it's not going to be very different than what the current existing map is. It's just by maybe one precinct here or there, not much of a change. And then the second part, though, that at least in the Senate, has still been around, honestly, COVID recovery, pandemic recovery, and also really, staying really paying attention to education loss, still staying really focused on that, and also holistically contending with the concerns associated with crime and looking at that from a holistic approach and trying to do something about those things. And that's what we have heard are concerns and issues that Marylanders want us to do something about. And so we really are trying to work and focus on those things, at least in the Senate.
Yeah, we're trying to get things done, however we can. And, sometimes I wish we'd go a little further, a little faster. But nonetheless, if you look back over this last term, the Maryland General Assembly has been at the forefront of progressive policies. And I think that we'll continue that trend. If we had, a federal partner that was willing to do the same thing, we as a country would be in a better place. But yes, as the Senate is failing to pass Build Back Better as it was currently proposed, I think that they will end up passing something, although we may not be satisfied with what exactly that is. I also want us to consider, what if we were in a different state that was solid, conservative, and, where individuals are looking to take rights away. So I don't want to lecture at all, but we're in a really great spot here in Maryland, and I'm excited about the work ahead. And I think the food's here.
Sorry, yeah, I think that we had a system going for some sort of timer alarm, but I don't think that that's actually needed. Sorry for the interruptions. That was an awkward alarm. Did anyone else want to comment on that before we move to the next question?
I agree. I agree with reference to Delegate Ivy and Senator Augustine. We're just going to continue to push aggressive, progressive bills as we're trying to, as you know, we passed the minimum wage. The minimum wage went up from $12.50. What we're trying to do now is to pass it to $15, 2022. So those are type of things that we're really trying to be very progressive. As Julian stated, we're in a great state in the state of Maryland to be able to get these type of things done.
Great, thank you so much. Next, I have Sunday.
Yes. First, I would like to say thank you for the folks that put this together. I've been a Cheverly resident for about going on 27 years. I moved out, moved back, and I've had the opportunity to work with Senator Augustine. You might not know me, but I know you very well. Our kids went to the same school, and I know Mr. Ivy very well when he was a young man.
The wee little one.
Yeah, exactly. And I worked with your dad also. Okay, first, I would like to thank Senator Augustine for his effort in the area when it comes to mental health and dental. Mental health right now is a very crucial issue that deals with everybody, regardless of your race, income, or anything at all. We've all gone through this, working from home, dealing with family members, losing family members. I'm glad you're working on that. And as a parent whose son is now over 22, and I got an email, actually mail later last week saying that my son is being kicked out of my insurance for dental because it's now 22 and is still in college. And that means that I have to pay out of pocket to get him dental. So I'm glad that Senator Augustine is working on that issue. Dental is very important, not just for the elderly, but also for the adolescents that kind of phase out of their parents' dental insurance. And so, I mean, you guys understand what I'm talking about. I also want to thank Representative Ivy for the work you've done. I'm very proud of you. But the thing is that since I moved back in Cheverly, I've not seen neither Senator Augustine or Representative Ivy in my community walking around just to see how we're doing. I only say that in regards of the infrastructure issues, money that the federal government has allocated to the states. For several years now, as a resident of Cheverly, we've pushed on several occasions, several times with different mayors, different reps on issue that has to do with highway and the noise that backs 50. As a resident of Cheverly, that's whose house backed 50, we've gotten a lot of promises from different delegates, different senators on what they would do about it. And all is just talk, nothing has been done to it. I'm wondering, has that been brought to your attention? If yes, what have you done, or what do you plan to do about that?
Sunday, I don't see you, but I know what you look like. Remember, and your family.
Yeah, I'll show my face.
Yeah, there he is.
I'm hiding.
Okay. Yeah, good
Hello,
to see
everybody.
you. Good to see you. Very well aware of the concern and the issue. There's just no question about it. It would be disingenuous if I were to tell you that there is a good solution, because there is not. There has been discussion about potentially putting up sound barriers in that area. but State Highway is not, for whatever reason, it has not been something that they have deemed that is a possibility. There's been some suggestion that it may not even be effective if they were to make that investment in that particular stretch. And but we just don't have good answers. And I would just like I said, I would just be being disingenuous if I said otherwise. So, but it is surely not that we're unaware or that we haven't tried and looked at different options and talked to them about ways that we may be able to do something about it. It just has not, we have not yet found a good solution. That's at least been my experience with the problem.
Okay, my only question, follow-up question to that is that with the new with the infrastructure money being channeled to the states and Maryland to deal with crumbling bridges, highways, which in this case, highways was what impacts what's happening to us here in Cheverly. The highway was expanded several years ago. We were promised then, and the notion to say that they don't think that putting a wall would be a solution. So that is a mute quest. That's a mute and false narrative, because walls are being put in all over the country, all over the place. If that notion that it doesn't work, why is the federal government and states all over the country spending billions of dollars doing that?
I wasn't suggesting that it doesn't work in certain applications. I'm saying that it was suggested that it wouldn't necessarily work in this application. Now, we can definitely obviously go back and talk to State Highway about it. Again, I'm just trying to be as transparent with you as possible that, I mean, we've asked and we've tried, and this has been what they've said.
Okay.
Definitely a tricky issue. Delegate, did you have something?
Yeah, let me jump in, Senator. I'm going to just jump in, and I don't think you was on when I was stating that in the budget, the proposed budget, the governor did not put any money for infrastructure. These are the roadblocks that we run into. These are the roadblocks that we run into in reference to dealing with State Highway Administration and dealing with infrastructure, because when you have a governor that is not trying to put in monies to be able to address those issues, dealing with bridges or sound, then this is what you elect us to go and fight to get those monies to get in there. And as the Senator state, we're working on it, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're going to continue to do. But right now, we need to work and get this money back into the budget, the infrastructure budget, so we can be able to address these issues.
And Mr. Sunday, I think just to build on what Senator Augustine was saying, essentially, sure, they could put the wall up, but it'll create a new noise issue of sending the noise up to Woodway or Hillside. And so, we will continue looking into it, of course. It is an issue that we are aware of, but it really isn't as straightforward as just putting up one wall. So we will be looking into it.
Important nuance for sure. I want to make sure that we get to the many hands that we have raised here. I see Beth.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm Beth on Laurel Avenue in Cheverly. I have been here since just before the pandemic. I've been in the DC area for like 13 years and off and on before that. And I heard the senator talk about mental health. I'm wondering what else is happening in the area of disability.
When you ask about disability, what specifically are you thinking about?
Well, I work in IT accessibility for the federal government, but I really do mean, I don't care what disability it is. How are we working to include people with disabilities to provide, whether it's education or jobs or accessibility to our IT or whatever it is, just all of it. to me, it's all interrelated.
Okay. I do better understand what you're saying. And what I will share with you, at least from the Senate standpoint, is we each have, we choose sort of the space where we think we can delve into a topic area and try to then be able to work to be able to make good policy decisions within that. And the space that I have chosen to work in, as has been identified, has been behavioral health. I've got a couple of colleagues who have concentrated on people with disabilities. And one is Senator Craig Zucker, who is a champion. And he actually, I just co-sponsored a piece of legislation that he shared with me to make sure that curriculums are more accessible to people with disabilities. And I can't do a very good job of explaining the bill because I don't have the same level of, I haven't developed the same expertise that he has within it. But he shares that with me and I'm supportive of that. I'm just sharing that to say to you that we do have champions who are working to make make more accessible to people with disabilities. The reason why I asked you the question, you also have folks like the ARC of Maryland who are also looking for additional money to be able to support people with disabilities in the state of Maryland on rates of reimbursement and things like that. So it's definitely a space that we definitely do have champions on. I've done my best to try to share a little bit, but that's not a space that I have concentrated on as much.
Would anyone else like to comment on the House side? I know Delegate Bonnie Collison, for example, has taken up this issue over in the House. Is anyone else working on anything?
Yeah, there's a couple different pieces of legislation coming through Ways and Means that deal with our public schools. I will be serving on the Education Subcommittee this year. There's a bill about accessibility for blind students and virtual schools, several others as well. But I also will acknowledge this isn't, I haven't focused on this specific issue or these issues as much as I have on property tax credit bills and things of that nature. But certainly will be looking to be supportive. If you have a piece of legislation that you are supportive of, I'd love to see it. Please send it my way. But I just want to acknowledge the fact that this isn't something that I've been mastering for these last 3 years either. Very complicated, very complex and complicated.
Same here. It's not my expertise. Expertise in dealing with ECM, minimum wage bill, family leave act, climate control. So basically, that's more of our focus. But if you have a bill that you need for us to look at, as Delegate Ivey stated, we could be able to look at it. And yes, Bonnie is one of the champions in dealing with this disability. So we're here and we're very supportive of our colleagues and making sure that we co-sponsor bills that will help with our disability community.
Thank you for that important question, Beth. I do believe that Zach is next.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about what's going on in the Maryland legislature. So my question is about something that you guys may have seen in the news. There's been increasing discussion about the need to fully electrify homes, specifically regarding gas furnaces and gas ranges. The Washington Post article yesterday showing that gas stoves are leaking methane even when they're off. And since the federal government is going to take quite a while, if they ever get technology neutral tax credits through to help families and households electrify homes. I'm curious if their Maryland legislature is looking at or is considering legislation that would help households move to electric or induction ranges, especially since quality ones are quite expensive right now. I mean, the costs are coming down, but they're still considerably more expensive than electric ranges. And one more question I have connected to air quality is that one of the biggest, the key things to having semblance of normalcy with COVID is is ensuring safety and reducing the spread of COVID. And it seems that one of the key things to help with that is air quality, and one of the ways schools have been doing, people have been making Corsi Rosenthal boxes, attaching MERV 13 filters with the box fan. And I'm curious if the Maryland legislature, they've already had done legislation on this, but what legislation's being considered to help schools and households and businesses with indoor air quality issues. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got it. So on the first one, the champion is not a senator, it's a delegate. Her name is Lorig Charkoudian. And Lorig, Delegate Charkoudian, does have a bill that is targeted towards low and moderate income individuals and making it more affordable for them to convert over to electrified appliances and other energy efficiency, but targeted energy efficiency opportunities. And she's kind of like a lead sort of champion on that. And she has, she does have a couple of pieces of legislation for that. Delegate Charkoudian, and with regard to the indoor air quality, Delegate Charkoudian actually has also been a leader in that space as well. I haven't yet seen it this year, but last year there was legislation that dealt with indoor air quality, and again, looking at it from a similar lens to the one with the move to electrification. So sort of keeping it in the space of energy efficiency and utilizing some of the tools that we have. C funds, which is a large fund that is used for projects like this, and dictating that certain amounts of money that is in that fund go towards those types of projects, and also apprentice programs to encourage Marylanders to become a part of that economy. So those things are definitely happening. There's legislation that has passed in the past, and there's legislation that's going on right now along those areas in Maryland.
I just want to say also that Lloyd, Delegate Charkoudian is actually sits on ECM, and I support her bills as in reference to what Senator Augustine stated. So yeah, she does have some moving parts out there in reference to the bills this year. So, and I do support her.
Yeah, I think they've done a great job answering your questions, Zach. Let us know if you have any more.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, I did just want to acknowledge that County Council Member Jolene Ivey has joined the forum. So just wanted to give her a shout out for joining us this evening, and just to acknowledge the good work that she is doing and her other council members, and in partnership with our Annapolis delegation, of course. So thank you for being here. I believe that
You're muted.
sorry, I'm not sure if I muted there. Madeline, you are next.
Okay.
You'd think 2
Hey,
years into
thanks.
this, I'd have the mute button down, but not there yet.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I wanted to just take the opportunity to thank our delegation for being willing to speak out on the issue of the Claybrook project. If, where the district was trying to set up in Claybrook, the circulator bus maintenance facility and a commercial driver license facility, which would really be devastating environmentally to the community right around Claybrook, as well as affecting Cheverly residents in terms of air quality. And I'm sure you all know that at this point, there's an environmental impact statement that now has to be filed before it can be proceed. But it was important that our political leaders and elected officials be able, speak out on this. It was terribly important, and it affects all of us. And I know we're going to continue to face these kind of issues, and it's important, again, that we have a very robust response in opposition. Anyway, I have that. I'm just making that point, and I have another issue, but I will wait in line for a second chance.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Sonia, we're ready if you have a question.
Finding the unmute button. So I'm pretty concerned about the pushback on anti-racist policies that have sprung up everywhere, especially, not especially, but even nearby in Loudoun County. There's been a whole bunch of anti-CRT policies, which, as we all know, isn't actually being taught in schools, but it's pushing out good work that people might be able to do to make schools more anti-racist. And I'm a little concerned about how the Eastern Shore and over by Hagerstown area is a little more conservative, and that this sort of nonsense can creep in to Maryland overall. I mean, our neighbor in Virginia, they just won an election for governor, partially based on pushing this anti-CRT nonsense. I'll just keep on using the word nonsense. So I would like your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Thank you for that important question, Sonia.
So I have the pleasure of serving on the Ways and Means Committee, which deals with education policy again. And, just to point out again, we're not Loudoun County, Virginia. We're the great state of Maryland, where my colleague, Delegate C.T. Wilson, who's now the chair of Economic Matters, which is a really big deal, and Senator Lee, they cross-filed legislation to make standards and to help with the implementation of these new standards, where individuals have to be taught about African American history, Indian American history, Asian American, Hispanic American, women, et cetera, so many other groups as well listed here, and others that can be determined by the state board. And so what you see here is just an opportunity for us to put protections in place. Like we're actively looking to pass legislation to protect a woman's right to choose, et cetera. And so, when you see a lot of these national issues that are being discussed, more often than not, Maryland's on the right side of it, trying to pass some legislation to protect whether it's your right as an individual or to protect the curriculum that's being taught to our children across the state. So we're keeping our eyes on it. And I just remember this bill because it was put forward a few days ago, maybe a week ago, and I was really excited by it.
I agree. That's the response. And I was going to mention the exact same one.
Same here. I was on the floor also when it was, yes. We're excited about that bill.
I like it when Senator Augustine, says that I said what he was going to say. It's always good.
You're on the right track. Thank you, Sonia, for that very important question. John, I have you up next.
Yes. Oops, I took the thing, but my face went someplace else, but that's all right. People are you talk to someone about a budget surplus, but there's someone suggested, read an article in the Post about we should be selling Baltimore Washington Parkway and use that funds to fund unfunded pension plans. So how are we have a budget, we say we have surplus, but how much in unfunded pension plans and other places, and how much debt do we have and that could be paid off, that and get our credit rating, and also be ready to pay those pensions when they come due.
I'm happy to address it. Julian, do you or?
Well, I personally don't think we should be selling the Parkway. I've heard.
Well, yeah.
No, sorry, but and I'm not as well versed on the underfunded pensions piece, but it's certainly something that I'll be looking into. And
so I'm willing to talk to it. I'm definitely going to speak to it. Yeah. Our pension is not underfunded. In fact, Maryland is in good shape, actually, as it relates to its pension. There was a very difficult decision and vote that we had actually as in our term, where there was a restructuring of the pension debt for the state of Maryland. There's still some concerns within that, but that put us onto a steady track to be able to pay the bills of Maryland. There was some restructuring on the healthcare benefits as a part of that pension, that pension debt that was there. But we, as a state, actually are in very good position with regard to our pensions. It's the reason why our state has maintained its AAA bond rating, actually, is that Maryland has actually been very strong financial stewards as a government. And we do have a surplus right now. I mean, this is the other thing that the governor has made an argument for, and he's put into his budget a 16% in the rainy day fund, which far exceeds the amount that is considered to be optimal, which is the reason why I shared earlier that some of it is a negotiation ploy on his point. There's significantly more money that Maryland can safely spend. We have a spending affordability board that goes through a very robust process to determine how much money should be spent, and we stay within that. We stay within our budget. Our budgets are balanced, and we surely don't. And we don't own the Parkway, by the way. That's federal land as well. So there's not something there for us actually to sell, and clearly not supportive of that anyway. I mean, the idea of commercializing some of the only green space that we know that we need to protect. I mean, we're looking to protect green space much more so than we are trying to let it go and sell it into some commercial hands. So that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you.
I think it's well said. Senator Augustine said it, and Delegate Ivy, we're doing great. We're in great shape. So we've done well in Maryland.
Thank you both. Before we continue to hands raised, I see a question that was asked a little while ago here in the chat on property tax issues. And it's, I think, very well worded. So I'm going to read directly from that. Property tax issues. With rising home prices, many people that are aging in their homes are struggling with increased tax burdens. Any insight into this issue for our aging population? Thank you, Denise, for posing that in the chat.
what I would say is everyone should go and check to see if they qualify for the homeowners or the homestead property tax credits. First and foremost, we did have a summer study in Ways and Means looking at ways to make these tax credits more accessible. One thing that we are looking into is lowering some of the thresholds to widen the program. But right now, what you can do is look to see if you qualify for those specifically. I've seen several pieces of legislation that I support in theory to, significantly reduce the amount of taxes that our seniors have to pay. It's something that, I'm supportive of, absolutely. The issue always runs into the fact that our senior population, when we talk about giving tax credits or tax breaks, things of that nature, it's a large hit on the budget. And so that's been a huge roadblock on this effort. But trying to find ways that we can make sure that individuals who really need the assistance most to keep them in their homes, that's something that we're all laser focused on.
I agree with that. And the state legislature has passed enabling legislation that if the county can find a way, they have the enabling legislation to provide some relief to to certain groups, including seniors. But again, as Delegate Ivy mentioned, you have to try to figure out how to do that within the budget. We are also trying to encourage policies. I have a bill that looks to incentivize transit-oriented development. We know that we want to build our commercial base in Prince George's County. We're going to try to do everything we can to do that so that we can relieve some of the burden that we have on that's required out of residential property taxes for our budget. That's an ongoing effort that we have, and we're trying our very best to support to help with this situation.
Going back in reference to Delegate Ivy, who sits on the Ways and Means in reference to dealing with property taxes. And as he stated before, whatever we can do to make sure that we can help our seniors with the homestead, just let us know and send them our way into our office, and we can try to help navigate.
I think that that's a great plug, Delegate, for constituent services that all three of you just perform tirelessly for our community. There's ever an issue, reach out to their office and they will help you. My family has actually reached out to the senator's office with an unemployment issue and an unemployment claim, and his office was within 24 hours, helped us out. So constituent services are excellent, and homestead tax credit and qualification and things like that are just one of the many ways that our folks in Annapolis can help. I'm going to go to other folks that have yet to ask a first question, then we can circle back to folks for a second. So Barbara, you'll be next.
Thanks to everybody and to the special civic servants that are sharing their wisdom with us tonight. My comment and question has to do with this surplus that's been referenced several times. Could someone speak to the process and the timeline for actually designating the priorities and the expenditure of this surplus? How does it relate to the deficits that are being proposed by the governor's shortfall budget? So if you can just kind of speak to that to help us to know when and how we citizens can give our input as to what some of those priorities might be.
Lots of budget nerds tonight. I love it.
That's outstanding. So there's a couple really interesting things in there, Barbara, that I just want to comment on. So the surplus occurs in a couple of different ways, actually. One way is that I talked earlier about how there's these measures, spending affordability, where we determine what we believe. We have to estimate what we think are going to be tax revenue, and it relates to what we will intend and plan to spend. And we have been conservative with that. That has generated, we were running a deficit, but there was a real effort to be conservative with the pandemic. And it did generate some of that surplus. So there's two different surpluses that are going on. There's that surplus. There is also a infusion of federal money that also has come from, that has also played a very significant role in the surplus. So that's one way. Another way is that even with what the governor passes as the budget, the governor will sometimes just simply not spend the money, talking about Larry Hogan. So we have had instances, I know that I have experienced this and just felt like embarrassed actually, where we thought we had gotten money for building schools inside of Prince George's County. And this was in my first year, 2018, thought we had it and we're ready to work on, break ground on a new elementary school up in north of Langley Park and Buck Lodge in 47B, go to the IAC, which is the entity that uses the governor that does it. And they're just like, we're just not gonna do it. We're not spending the money. And they had that prerogative to do that. I mean, they gave a little bit of a song and dance as to why, but it literally was just a song and dance. And they have that authority to spend or to not spend even the money that is budgeted. And so that's actually, even though we're gonna gain budget authority to add to the budget, the executive still will have that power to just be like, yeah, you can put it in the budget. I'm not gonna spend it. I'm just not gonna do it. And so that is just, it's very frustrating. I will tell you, it's very, very frustrating. And the governor, and that's what's also happening now. So what citizens can do is tell the governor right now, because this governor actually really does pay attention to, what he hears. Like, he does not want his reputation to be tarnished in any way. Write to him, tweet it, you know what I'm saying? Send a letter, make a phone call. I mean, give us our money. Give Prince George's County school system its money that is supposed to be there. And we've had enough of it. That's what I would suggest doing, because we don't have anything other than the bully pulpit. I'll just be honest with you. That's all we have as leverage today with the governor.
And I just want to add that the senator, I'm glad that he went first, because the Senate side will be moving on the budget this year before the House side. So I just wanted to add that. And as the senator stated, just put the pressure on.
Thank you.
Can I just respond to what we were talking about in the chat about the homestead credit? They're saying it's dead, but it's not like open right now either. So we're like in a period of time when you're not actually, where you're filing for the credits. I mean, it closed in the fall. And so it's like certain windows of time when you apply for the credits.
Thank you for that clarification. Not a dead link, just unable to apply right now. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Next, we have Bill.
Good evening. County Council is currently considering the climate action plan as was proposed to it recently. And on page 30 of the climate action plan, it suggests that the practice of granting waivers, special exceptions, and grandfathering development proposals must end. Each of us are residents of Prince George's County, whatever else our responsibilities are. I'm wondering if, in fact, any of us on the call tonight, including the two delegates and the senator, believe that our county council is going to end the practice of granting waivers, special exceptions, and grandfathering as regards future development. So will we ever, in fact, have a climate action plan implemented that council is likely to be supportive of? In addition to that question, I wanted to alert everyone on the call that over the course of the next week and a half, there are two fora that are occurring that could be very important to residents of Cheverly and of the 47th District. One on February 9th is the WMATA public hearing in College Park City Hall as regards the capital and operating budget for the next year. And one is this coming Wednesday, the 2nd, the Washington Suburban Transit Commission, of which I'd love to hear the senator speak, is having its annual forum. As of today, none of the presentations, either of WMATA, MTA, or Montgomery's Department of Transportation, or our Department of Public Works and Transportation, presentations are posted. And according to the director of the WSTC, he's not certain that they will be posted before the forum itself occurs on February 2nd. That aside, I'd love to think that that the three members of the Assembly would encourage all residents to, one, attend the WSTC forum and also the WMATA public hearing on the 9th. Not every decision of import is made in Annapolis. Certainly some are made in Washington, but Largo, now Largo, not formerly Upper Marlboro, Largo is the site of many decisions that affect us all on a daily basis. And I'd, again, love to hear a comment from each of the three.
Before anybody answer that, if I lose you all, evidently they want to do a application on my computer to restart. So if I lose you, that's what's happening, okay? So I just
Technology timing.
Yeah, I
Right?
know. I just texted senators and said, what? It just popped up. So far, I still have you guys. So just want to let you know what's going on. An application.
Thank you for letting us know.
On Friday night application.
Okay, so first of all, let me just say, good to see you, Bill. Bill Orleans is a tremendous transit advocate from Greenbelt, who I've been talking with for many years now. So it is good to see you, Bill. I have been in touch, Bill, with the new principal director for WMATA, Colonel Drummer. I will absolutely bring up with him the concerns you had about the documents being made available for WSTC. For those of you who do not know, I was the alternate board member for representing Prince George's County on the WMATA board. And that's where I got a chance to interact with Mr. Orleans quite a bit. And, so we definitely can, we could definitely look at that. And also I will also get with Pat Pashier about the documents as well, Bill. We'll definitely do that. Now, with regard to the county council, that's the county council. I mean, you're right, we do have some leverage on the WMATA because we do provide funding, as you well know, from the state. It is a state funding for WMATA. And so we definitely will be in touch and work on that. And what I would say is, as I said a little bit earlier, we still are very strong. I know all of us as a delegation are very strong supporters of public transportation and still encouraging those investments in that area. But we do have to hold it accountable. There's just no question about that. And so they have to do right by us and be transparent. So I will do that.
Just got a little note from one of our county council members saying that the climate action plan implementation will require them getting 6 votes. So please reach out to the county council, reach out to Councilmember Ivy and let her know your concerns. But I think that she's on your side. Look, reach out to all of the members. I think it's really important. And Brianna, there's a question in the chat about maglev.
I see that. Yeah. Would you like to take that now and then we can continue with our questions?
Sure. I think Delegate Nicole Williams, Delegate Geraldine Valentino Smith last year were working on legislation to restrict state funds from being used for the maglev project. I believe that there was some funding put into the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So that's certainly something for us to look at. Reaching out to our senators, reaching out to our members of Congress. I think that's the way to go for the maglev.
That is
I
correct.
agree. I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, that is correct. And there is a coalition that is activated and working actively to ensure that this project does not come to fruition. And we all, believe that this is just not a good project for our district, or quite frankly, for the state of Maryland. And so we're working hard to ensure that it does not come to fruition. We have the support of the met with Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin about this, but it's always great if they hear from others as well that they are not supportive of the maglev project. That would be greatly appreciated by all of us if everyone would just share that perspective with them.
And I agree with Senator Augustine in reference to making sure that our federal partners is aware to let everyone know that we do not approve of it. Maglev.
I see that Councilmember Ivy in the chat noted that Congressman Brown is also against the project. I see one final hand raised for a first round of questions, and we're coming down to about 10 minutes or so left in our forum. So Mr. Fred Price, if you would like to ask your question.
Hey.
Fred, can you unmute yourself? There we go.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we sure can.
I'm very unhappy with our ability to work with state highway. And I'm not talking about sound barriers. I'm talking about the town has been negotiating with them for years about a dog park right behind our public works building. That has not moved forward. The delegation promised me, Mr. Ivy, that he was going to see about getting Columbia Park Road and the Cabin Branch, and the bridge worked on. That hasn't happened. Only action has been taken is somebody was killed there, and they took some action in that. And I'm pleased with Senator Augustine in his efforts to get the litter on the ramp. I would suggest that each of you go to the Bladensburg waterfront, and if you live in Cheverly, come out and make a right turn and get up on the ramp heading back to Cheverly. What you're doing is inviting people to come to the great waterfront, and then when they come out, they see that this is a dumping ground. We are asking that you have State Highway do one thing. First of all, get our dog park squared away and get the Columbia Park and the bridge squared away with the Amazon project. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've learned to stop making promises for things. Mr. Price, it really is always a pleasure to hear from you. Even when you're letting us know about things in different tones. I was on the town council when we were talking about the dog park, and I'll reach out to SHA about it again. So there's that. As for Columbia Park specifically, also be reaching out to SHA. Widening the bridge is going to take quite a bit of investment, and I know for a fact that it's not something that they're looking to prioritize. But I completely agree. The litter issue is a huge concern, and we'll continue working on that.
Anyone else have any thoughts to offer?
Say hello to Ms. Price as well. So.
Hello, Mr. Price, Delegate Finette.
Hey, baby, how you be?
Oh,
and I think, yeah, she was in just in time to say hi to you, Mr. Price, and then there's her computer restarting. Okay, does anyone else, if you have a burning question?
I just forgive me, but it must be something to do with the state laptops, because mine is doing the same thing. I've got 9 minutes. That's what stopped me from
it's a state.
talking.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I'm suffering the same thing, folks. I'm so sorry, but that's
They
why
think
I
a
didn't
Friday
respond,
night
Mr.
during
Price.
session.
That's why I
A
didn't.
Friday
respond,
night during
Mr. Price.
session's the safest time, they think, huh?
I'm so sorry, y'all, but I've got like
Cheverly, you're
can't
stuck
stop it.
with me.
Cannot stop it.
Okay, well, we have just a few minutes left. I do see Sunday, you have a second question if you'd like to ask that now.
Yes, actually, one is just a comment and second is a question. And the first comment is that Senator Augustine, like I said before, when it comes to the issue of mental health and Zoom accommodation and disability, I can be a resource. I do that for my agency. I have very strong interest in that. I'm very dedicated to that. And I thank you for doing that. My second question has to do with the development that will be coming up at the former Prince George's County's hospital. What do you have to say about that? Not just you, also to Mr. Ivy. What are your thoughts about that? And what kind of what is the county? Not the county. The town's interest, and how is it being protected?
Sure. Back when I was running, I think in 2017, we're talking about bringing, a coffee shop to replace the old Friendly Inn. And now there's a new little shop coming there. It sells more than coffee. So there's a victory there. I bring it up because Cheverly's changing and we just lost the hospital itself. So now if you have a medical emergency, it could take 15 minutes for you to get to the hospital. So there's an issue with us losing the hospital, but then there's also the issue of, well, what are we going to do with the space now that the hospital's not there anymore? The staff are no longer there, but we still have the infrastructure. We still have the roads already constructed. We have buildings that we could use for different purposes. So I'm really proud of the community here in Cheverly. I know that you all have been watching that project very closely, as you should. And I know that a lot of your concerns and complaints have been adopted, although I assume there's probably something that, still needs some work because, that's just how things typically go. You never get it exactly perfect, but I think it's really good that we're going to have something there replacing the hospital. And as a young person looking to at some point, hopefully buy a home not too far from here, it is something to consider as well. But overall, not to belabor the point, I think that as long as we implement it the right way, that it will be better than the alternative, which would be just having the building waste and decay. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much.
So Sunday,
Yes.
I put into the chat my email address.
Okay.
And I put my email address, one, and then number two, I put the link to the legislation that I'm working on and give you the list of that legislation. The reason that I'm sharing that is that if you look and you see some of those bills, particularly those that deal in maybe something of interest to you from a behavioral health standpoint, please email my office and just share that if you would like to testify on some of the bills. Some of them have already passed, but you can always provide written testimony or oral testimony for some of these pieces of legislation. And we always want to hear from our constituents. We want participation in that process and to hear from folks to get their perspective on different things and any suggestions or ideas as well. The one thing I will say is that we have passed the time for new legislation for this particular session. We've passed the date where we can be assured that we'll be able to get it back in time for this. But you can also just take a look at all the different pieces of legislation that are there and share with us your thoughts on them and how you feel, what your position is on them, so we can make sure that that's a part of our consideration when we are working on them.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. I'm sure we'll do that. And also, one more thing I would say also, it has to do with neurodiversity in terms of our kids in school right now. That's a lot on that subject entirely, which I said before, I would like to discuss further. And also, we all know how sometimes our kids are being portrayed, not just our kids in general have some kind of neurodiversity issues, but it's kind of classified as being dumb, stupid language, don't know anything, don't do well in school, which is not the case. But I'm willing and able to provide any help I can, testify if I need to. And thank you very much to my delegates. I appreciate you guys very much.
Thank you. Other thing that I would say to around the hospital site, I did a couple of years ago put money into the state budget that was sent to the Redevelopment Authority in order to help with the RFP that has led to the proposals that are there that I'm hopeful that Cheverly residents are participating in to share what they feel this redevelopment should look like. And so that process right now is ongoing. I just hope that folks will do that and participate. I'm gonna leave y'all and I'm gonna be right back. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. I just want to add, I lost you all because of the application. I just want to say that if I lose you again, just want to say I was just happy to see everybody, to hear from you. The COVIDs have kept us apart. I look forward to continuing working for you and with you. I put my information in the chat, my telephone number, my email address, and just want to continue to see you all in reference to when we're pushing these bills and these good bills, and to see you all continue to advocate and come and advocate on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. And Zach, if you can keep it super quick, we've got the very last question to you.
Of course, this is strictly about electoral politics, looking ahead, not even, you don't even have to go into details, just yes or no. Of the Democratic candidates, starting with a larger name recognition or platform of public experience, do you think we should be excited? There's a reason to be excited for any of those candidates, regardless of who ends up winning in the primary? Thank you.
Zach, you should always be excited, to be able to participate in the electoral process. I'm running for re-election, and I hope you're excited about that. But as for the gubernatorial candidates, I think we have a strong group of candidates running, and they all have their different experiences. Our former county executive is running for governor again. He's got a lot of experience. I think that's important. There are other candidates, they're also running as well. Only one of them is from Cheverly. So, hey.
Well said, Julia.
Yeah, vote. I mean, I don't like the mantra of vote blue no matter who, but you end up with Republican governors who are very popular, but when you look into the details, they've been gutting or trying to gut education funding and so many things as well. Don't just vote blue because they have a D by their name. Vote for them because of the policies they stand for. But when you line up against a Republican, it's really a no-brainer in my mind.
Well, thank you all for being with us tonight. This was a productive conversation, to say the least. Thank you to the delegates and to the senator, who hopefully he won't sign back in at this point because we're closing out. Thank you for your work, for shepherding us in Annapolis, and for being our voice there. Any closing words that you two would like to offer us?
Just thank you for all that you all do. Thank you. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you, Progressive Cheverly, putting on this forum. It's so important for the 47th district. You've seen other members of other communities pop onto this forum. It is something unique and something that we need to preserve here in the 47th. So thank you all for all of the work that you do. Yeah, Senator Augustine, Delegate Fennell, myself, we're all working really hard for you. And really it's a privilege to serve, and it's been an honor. So thank you.
Same here. Thank you all. Thank you.
Senator, you're back. Any closing remarks quickly?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I definitely want to say thank you to everybody for being here. It looks to me like Mr. Price has left the building, which is unfortunate because I actually just wanted to just share with him that, the easy things are already done. I mean, that's always the case where we find like in government and stuff like that. And I have worked hard to try to get those ramps cleaned up. We have it at the intersection of Kenilworth Avenue and near the waterfront park where there are those issues. And we have an MOU, just to share with you all kind of like the things that go on. We have an MOU between the town of Bladensburg and State Highway for Bladensburg to be reimbursed for cleaning up that area. The problem is that the guardrails make it difficult for Bladensburg to actually do the work. It requires an articulating piece of equipment that they can't afford for just those two small places. We had another conference call with the State Highway to see if they could, if we could find some surplus equipment or something like that, and where this would make sense. With all that being said, it's still, the trash is still there and we got to get it picked up, and it's a problem. But I would just say to everyone, we work hard to try to address these problems and concerns. And sometimes, we do everything we can and they still, they frustrate us just like they frustrate everybody else. And I'm very, very proud and honored to try to give my very best in all for us. And I'm grateful for you all as my neighbors. And I also just look forward to the day where we can do this in person. This is just like so appropriate because it's snowing, just like the one like you all shared before. I mean, this is that forum. And so thank you so much. And I hope to see everybody real soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you
You
so
too.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's nice seeing y'all.
Take care.
Bye.
See y'all later. Bye-bye.